I'm Joe Marino, and I'm not Jeremy White.
I'm the big O Jerry Ostroski. How come I can't get invited to the pizza party? This is the Locked On Network, and you're watching Bill Squad.
Who's ready, Bills Mafia? It's the Bills Squad, sponsored by Game Time. Everything Buffalo Bills, every week. Breaking down the big hits and game-changing plays the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So gear up and squad up. The Bills Squad show starts now.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, joined by the big O, Jerry Ostroski. Jeremy White off today. He's getting a little time with the family before the full season is upon us, and we got so much to talk about here today on Bill Squad. We got some news. Josh Allen not going to play Saturday night. Trey White with an injury scare today. We have Ben Solak coming through in about 15 minutes. He's got some really interesting nuggets about the Bills' offense and defense. We got to check in on position battles. So much to do here on Bill Squad. Thanks for being here. If you're part of our live audience, we are grateful for that. Hit the like button, leave a comment. All of that is so helpful for the show. Jerry, welcome in. Happy Thursday to you.
Good to see you, Joe. Happy to be here. Not happy to hear reports out of Orchard Park that Trey White hopped off the field today in practice. I have no idea what's going on, why we can't get through a practice without having major injuries every day. And it's not like this is a bloodbath camp. So it'd be nice to figure out what the issue is.
So that's the big story right now. Literally just minutes before we went live, we get reports, and I'll give you the report courtesy of Sal Capaccio on X. He said, Bills cornerback Tre'Davious White hopped off the field on one leg today and was immediately looked at by trainers. He stood by the outside wall with them for several minutes before walking slowly on his own with a trainer nearby into the locker room area. White later walked back down the tunnel towards the field, where he sat in a cart and was driven out. So we don't know anything more than that. Optically, that's pretty concerning. One leg, a cart eventually comes through. Another beat reporter said he punched the wall, and this is a concern. I mean, Maxwell Harrison, your first-round pick, he's on the shelf right now as he works back from the LCL sprain. Tre'Davious White was going to be the get-by player, right? And now he's not available, and you start thinking, oh, my goodness, are we staring at week one against the Ravens with Dane Jackson or Dorian Strong or Jamarcus Ingram, or is this a fire up the phones and call Rasul Douglas or Stephon Gilmore? You want to come on back? I mean, it's time to start really thinking about those options if something's significantly wrong here with Trey White.
Exactly. And one thing that's very interesting about the NFL going to one cut instead of two cuts is this week before the Tuesday, obviously Tuesday, 4 o'clock Eastern time, teams need to get their rosters pared down to where they need to be. Without that first cut anymore in the extra preseason game, this week prior to the cut, sort of towards the end of the week, turns in it's become a trade week. You got like 3 or 4 days of team that start dealing, like, you know, maybe they got a fringe guy or a dude that they know they can't hide on the practice squad that they might lose, or they got a veteran that's making a lot of money and they got rookies that are playing better. So they tend to move those types of guys that can help teams in depth situations, or like the Bills all of a sudden in injury situations. The thing that's scary about this, if you were to go out and try to make a trade for one of those corners, we know that, you know, we've heard about it every year now. The secondary system in Buffalo is complex. So you've got 1 week to, you know, coach up a guy to play and start on Sunday night against the Ravens. So obviously you would have to think that the easiest fix, if this is a long-term situation for Trey White, is Rasul Douglas. You know, Gilmore's out there as well, but, you know, you'd like to maybe say, hey, bring Douglas in. Let's get us through the first 4 to 6 weeks of the season, and then we can either keep you around as a depth piece or move you from there on. But this all of a sudden becomes really, really urgent for the Bills if Trey White is going to be out for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I'm with you that Rasul Douglas feels like the most reasonable outside option, but I'll say something I don't think a lot of Bills fans want to hear. Dane Jackson has started 28 games for the Bills since 2020. So I know that's not an exciting option, but there's at least experience. It's not anything that would be new for him. It's obviously a concern. That's going to be the the Where's Waldo it's going to be Dane Jackson.
Yeah.
He's going to be tested. Like, that's going to happen. And you don't love that, but that's potentially where this is at. And we'll obviously wait for all the information, but it's tough. It's tough right now to consume that information and not start to really get worried about that overall situation. It's a shame. It's a shame that both of those guys, Hairston and White, now with injuries, we don't know severity of White. And obviously Hairston, like, he still has to get back and he still has to get calloused up and ready to go. That's not like he's returning to practice. He's going to be ready to go. I feel like we're weeks away probably from him being ready to play in a game.
I would say with Hairston, the best thing you do is once you do get him healthy, basically you put him on the field and say, play press man. You don't have to worry. You don't have to learn a system playing man coverage, right? So if you have this rookie that has a lot of ability, you think he can play man for you, just put him in press man situations and go until you get him up to speed with the system. So, the other thing that goes along with this, Joe, is that obviously we're coming off such an absolutely atrocious performance against Chicago. So all anybody remembers, because we don't forget until we play the next game,
right,
is that secondary performance against the Bears. And watching that on film, oh my goodness, I felt bad. Like, I could see why the safeties, while they struggled and had issues with communication, I could also see why they did have issues with communication, because there were just, like we talked about before, free runners everywhere. So add that fuel to the fire, and this very quickly could be a very, very raging inferno in the next 24 to 48 hours as far as the secondary in Buffalo.
Well, we didn't plan on starting today's conversation with a Tre'Davious White injury, but literally before we started, that's the big news that came through. So we wanted to share some initial thoughts on that. But I guess the big piece of information so far today, other than that, has been Sean McDermott coming out during his press availability and declaring that Josh Allen will not play Saturday night against Tampa Bay, which means Josh Allen will not have any preseason reps. And Sean was asked, hey, that's different. You've always played him at some capacity. Why the change? And Sean said, well, part of my job is to change, right, based on what the team needs, and said, this is the reigning NFL MVP. We're comfortable with where he's at, and you want to protect him and make sure he's ready to go for Baltimore. So what's your initial thought on Josh Allen entering week 1 against Baltimore in a game that feels heavy, right? I mean, the tiebreaker on the line here for two teams that are projected to win a lot of games. You play each other in the postseason. You want that game at your place. Do you wish that Josh Allen had some live game reps going into that preseason game or that regular season game, or are you comfortable with this?
First time in Josh Allen's career that he's never taken a preseason snap. And, there's many, many ways to look at this. One thing I wanted to do, and I didn't have an opportunity to do, is I was going to go back and try to look and analyze all these preseason games, looking at the stats and to see just how many of the kind of marquee players or marquee quarterbacks have not played any preseason snaps this offseason. I'm not sure what that number is. If you know it, I don't know about Lamar if he played. I know that we obviously know Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels got some. Bowles came out and said none of the Tampa Bay guys are playing this week. And then you got the likes of Miami that said all of our starters are playing. So it's all over the place across the board. As far as comfort goes, I don't know. I'm still old school in this manner. I just have when I go play golf, whether it's 9 holes, putt, whatever, I show up an hour early and hit balls. And there's a reason why I do, because I want to get a feel. I want to get warmed up and I want to go. And part of me just still feels that way about football. There's something about rolling out into the huddle with all your guys in the preseason at least once and knocking the rust off and, just getting that feeling back again. And, to talk about protection of players' health, if you want to protect players in Buffalo right now, put them in the preseason games, because they don't get hurt in the preseason games. They get hurt in practice. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so there's that whole aspect. And I don't know, the one thing that I am comfortable with, and I truly believe this, watching Josh in live and then seeing Josh in these clips, man, he looks different to me this year than he's ever looked. There's a different type of confidence. The ball's coming out of his hand differently. The command of things, he really, I think, has a grasp on this. So if there's a saving grace to him not taking snaps, It's that he has looked so dang good in practice and in joint practices. So we have that. But no, it's not even just him. It's everybody. I just would like to get everybody out there to shake it off a little bit. And I know most of them did in that Giants game, Joe, but I don't know. It's I got a little bit of that old in me, man. I just kind of like, the gang being together at least once or twice before you start this thing for real.
Well, it's pretty undeniable that the best way to get ready to play football is probably to play football. Right? So Josh will be
Yes.
between the AFC Championship game and Week 1 against Baltimore. He won't have any snaps in an actual football game. I love the comment that you've made, and you've done this a few different times where you've talked about how things do feel different with Josh Allen. You've even used the word aura. So here you are talking old school. You're talking new school as well, dropping words like aura. I'm not even sure I know what it means. But I would really align with your thoughts there. And I think more and more about the year that happened for Josh Allen, where I don't think we were ever really in doubt that it was Josh Allen's football team. But when you do make the transition away from Diggs and Morse and Poyer and White and Hyde, like in one fell swoop, and all of a sudden this is you. And then you go out and you're the NFL MVP and you take your team to the AFC Championship game. You get married to Haley Steinfeld. You probably feel some type of way about yourself. And I'm not saying that Josh has ever lacked confidence. I would never say that about him. But there's got to be a renewed sense of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, of I'm that dude.
Yes.
And I think he's exuberated that pretty consistently, really throughout every exposure that I've had to Josh Allen over the last several months.
Well, think about this, Joe. It's not just the Haley Stein, all that stuff. I think for so long there were so many doubters. Probably the most polarizing quarterback in the NFL.
Sure.
Josh Allen. It was like our world nowadays. You're either in or you're out. There's no in between, right? There was no soft view on Josh or middle of the ground view. You loved him or you hated him. And he wins that MVP last year. And we know his outward appearance. We're not in his house. We're not sitting at his table when he's eating dinner. Even the guys that have that outwardly confidence about him still have that little bit of doubt in the back of their mind. And it's really a good thing to have because it fuels you. It fuels you to get better. And maybe now, just by the fact he wins that MVP, and by no means is he complacent because he knows what the ultimate goal is. That's still there. Maybe he feels that, hey, now not only have I felt this way, now everybody feels that way about me. I've been the MVP. I'm the man. And that's kind of, that weights off of him a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
I have the most unique question you will ever be asked about regarding Josh Allen. This is a debate that my wife and I have. We've had multiple times over the last several years, and I want to know where you stand on this. Josh Allen, at home, at his house, does he unload or load the dishwasher? Is Josh Allen involved in any way of doing the dishes at his house?
Yes. I think Josh Allen is heavily involved in everything. I think Josh Allen is 21st century dude, man. He probably rolls the trash out. I'll be honest with you. He probably throws a dryer sheet in the dryer and then takes
you think he's switching over to laundry?
And folds them up and switches the laundry out. There's no doubt in my mind that he's done that. Because here's the other thing about him. Okay. No kids. I don't know if he has pets. I don't know if he has pets or not, right?
I think Haley's got that Yorkie. I've seen that. I wonder what his relationship with Josh is. Can you imagine Josh holding that little dog with the bow tie or what?
That's more like an annoyance. Exactly. Yeah. But, he's done that himself and long enough. And, she's got her scheduled independence. And I think that, I do. I think I'll tell you what, I think he might make dinner sometimes too.
Ooh, a little breaking out the culinary possibilities there with Josh Allen. Well, that's interesting. I can be convinced that you're right. I can be convinced that there's no chance that he's he's doing the dishes. Maybe we'll ask.
Well, you never said which side you were on.
Because I don't know. I wanted your opinion. Maybe we will as Ben is getting settled in. I'm going to do an ad read here in a second. But Ben, if you can hear me, be prepared to answer this question, which is definitely not why we brought you on here. Does Josh Allen do the dishes at his own house? We'll get into that and a whole lot more here on the other side of it. Folks, be sure to stick with us. August 26th is officially FanDuel's Futures Days, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or you're ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. Is Josh Allen going to be the repeat MVP? Is it Lamar Jackson again? Crown your champion in August. Is this the Bills year, or do the Eagles repeat as Super Bowl champs? Or you can parlay your division winners and get yourself a nice payout. So visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only on FanDuel. Play your game. Welcome to the program, Benjamin Solak of ESPN. Thank you for giving us some of your time. You put together a column recently on your training camp tour, and you had some insightful things to share about the Bills. So I want to get into that with you, but as promised, Ben, welcome. And does Josh Allen have any involvement with doing the dishes at his own house?
I would say probably less than the average husband, but I would say not zero, right? Because like if you're just a regular person who grew up a guy from wherever he was in California, then you ate your eggs in the morning and then you washed your plate. And that's he's not going to like stop doing that now that he's like married to Haley Steinfeld and making $260 million or whatever it is. I think he does the dishes.
I think the better question would probably be, does he have somebody that they hired in the house to do the cooking and put the dishes away and all that? That's probably
I think like a lot of them have personal chefs. So I bet you he has a personal chef. But again, like he's not going to like go to the fridge, pull out a Tupperware of leftover whatever, and then just like always every single time just chuck it into the sink and be like, I'm very rich, someone will handle this. He doesn't seem like that sort of guy to me.
Well, Ben, thanks for coming on here. Ben's been a longtime real-life friend of mine, and you are now at ESPN, and I'm thrilled for the success that you've had in your career. And it was really awesome a couple weeks ago to be at St. John Fisher, and then all of a sudden I'm walking to go to a press conference, and I see Ben Solak, and I'm like, let's go. We get a chance to catch up, and we watched a good bit of practice together, and you put together your big picture article on your 10 different stops that you made at training camp this year. And I know you've been doing this for a few years now. So let me start here. As you consider the different training camps that you've been to, is there anything that stands out to you regarding the Bills training camp that is unique, or something that you really enjoy about what's different about Bills camp?
I think being like, they're one of the few teams that still goes to the university, and they obviously really sell out for it in terms of like, oh, here's everybody coming with their, sheets and their Settlers of Catan board games and what have you. And I like that absolutely has a different vibe around it, a different impact. The players talk about training camp differently than they do at other places. It's hard to say better. It's hard to say like this leads to, better week one because the team is more together. But like, culturally, McDermott's been doing this for a long time. Allen's been doing this for a long time. They've been up at the university for a long time. The team leaders are kind of like, this is what we do. And you can tell that it has a really like they in some ways look forward to it, and that they enjoy having that go away camp in a way that like when I go to Steelers camp, who also do it away at a college, I would say that there's not that same level of yippee-ki-yay, we're doing it. This more of like, oh gosh, we're doing it sort of a vibe. And so I always enjoy being up there because it feels very culture, it feels very family, it feels very like good time. And again, I don't know if that's meaningful, but that's what feels different.
Well, Ben, when we spoke on the sidelines, you shared with me Joe Brady's comments to you about Josh Allen and the reduction of turnovers, right? Obviously from a turnover-prone narrative that he earned to the greatest season in the history of the NFL and taking care of the football. And so as the everybody eats mantra has been established, as Josh Allen has went from turnover prone to the best ever in a single season of taking care of the football, Joe Brady shared some things to you that I've never heard, and I thought they were very compelling. I'm excited that they were in the article, and I'd love for you to kind of just flesh that out, because I think this is something Bills Mafia has not really heard.
Yeah, so I asked Brady a lot of stuff. One of the things I asked him about was how, I wanted to know how you get Josh into like a rhythm and how you get him into a place where He can be as aggressive as you want him to be because he can make the throws, 2 inches from the sideline, falling over 6 yards down the field that nobody else can be. But also philosophically, we're trying to be a little bit more spread and shred. We're trying to be a little bit more dink and dunk. We're trying to be a little bit more at the line of scrimmage. But also, if we need you to put on the superhero cape, please put on the superhero cape.
Right.
But also understand that we have a good defense. And so even if it feels like you need to put on the cape, maybe you don't. Like that's just, there's so many, how do you calibrate a guy? How do you keep him centered? And the two things that he said that I thought were very interesting were, one, he immediately said, listen, he was low interception rate last year, but we look at turnover-worthy plays and we know we got away with some, right? And it's important, I think, when a coach identifies that and they're looking at the right stuff. I think that indicates that he's a shrewd guy, but it also, I think, reflects what they're telling Josh, which is that, like, hey, just because you didn't throw the picks doesn't mean it was good, right? And we're still going to be continuing to sharpen this blade a little bit. And then the second thing that he talked about was really trying to alleviate Josh of the pressure of having to get certain playmakers the ball. And he never at any point said the name Stephon Diggs, but it kind of very much feels like, hey, back then you had a guy who really wanted to get the ball and we wanted to get him the ball and it was a priority for us to get him the ball. And so if we were early in the game and that wasn't working out and it wasn't a big Steph game, I think, again, reading between the lines of what Brady said, I think the implication was Josh was starting to feel pressure to say, we got to get Steph the football. And a big part of what Brady said, communicates that he talks to Josh about is, listen, if we call a play that is designed for 10, it's designed for Khalil Shakir, and it doesn't work for whatever reason, right? Defense has it covered up. There's an offensive line issue, what have you. It's not your job to get Shakir the ball on the next play. It is my job to call the next, hey, this one's for Shakir, whether it's in that drive, one drive or two drive down the road. You don't worry about handling the democracy of this offense and making sure everybody eats. Everybody's got to eat, the mantra from last year. I'll handle that. You execute. You just go out there and make good decisions. And if we get to the halftime locker room and somebody's upset because they haven't touched the football, I will handle that because that's my job as the offensive coordinator. And that seems like it's a big focus point for him.
Let me ask you this, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
So does that lead to Brandon Beane and this theory of everybody eats? And by the way, that's the best way I've ever heard it explained, because honestly, to me, it's more of a marketing ploy than anything, marketing slogan. But when you look at this everybody eats mantra, and they're obviously all in, is that why you see the Bills hesitant to go out to try to get what people call, quote unquote, a wide receiver one, or maybe more of a ball dominant wide receiver, in the fact that Josh doesn't mesh with those guys because he's going to force the ball and cause turnovers, to where this isn't maybe necessarily the organization saying, hey, we don't want a freak show at wide out. It's just better for our quarterback not to have one.
I think some of it is chicken and some of it's egg. And so, like, I no one intimated to me, like, hey, we can't get a wide receiver one because Josh is going to put Josh in a bad headspace. Nor do I think that, if T. Higgins tomorrow, that's a bad example, just had an extension. If some excellent receiver tomorrow was like, I want to force my way into a trade and I want to go to Buffalo, would they be like, well, no, now, like, we have, Matt, Elijah Moore. So I don't think it's cut and dry. I think I'll have it's chicken and egg. What I do believe is that one of the first things that a general manager and a head coach has to do is they have to sit down and figure out, okay, as a group, as a unit, where are we going to cut corners? Where's our scheme going to allow us to save money, right? For a long, think about the Philadelphia Eagles. For a long time, it was, we're going to invest in the defensive line and we're going to cut corners at safety. We're going to cut corners at linebacker, right? Kansas City Chiefs right now are investing really heavily in the interior so they can cut corners at the offensive tackle position, right? Like, you have to save money somewhere relative to the top of the NFL market. Nobody can have top 5, top 10 players everywhere. And so it feels like the Bills, knowing some of the issues of some of the Stephon Diggs era, knowing some of Josh's maybe not so great tendencies, and then also knowing that Joe Brady really likes to be able to RPOs and reads and make decisions based off the math. Knowing all of this, they're saying, okay, we're going to see if we can kind of cut corners a little bit at wide receiver and pay some money to Josh Palmer and get a decent contract on Khalil Shakir, but not necessarily spend the huge money on the top guy. So I think it's a collective decision. I would hesitate to say it's exclusively because of Josh this and Josh that, but it's where they've landed. I think it's not the wrong read to assume that's part of it.
Ben, the other part of your article focused in on the defense, and to take your words, you said surprising schematic silliness on defense. Break that down for us.
Yeah, I think that there's no defense in football right now that more famously says, this is our stuff, this is what we run, this is what we play, and we're gonna play it, and you see if you can beat us, then the Buffalo Bills. And you chortle, and a lot of us chortle, because a lot of the Buffalo Bills sudden postseason halts can be described by the reality that, hey, we're going to go out there against Joe Burrow, and we're going to go out there against Patrick Mahomes, and we're going to run the stuff that they saw on film for 17, 18, 19 weeks of the season. And we just think we can out execute them. And it's just so stinking hard in 2024, 2025 to out execute these quarterbacks. They are so well prepared. The Monday through Saturday process of the week, right? Teams have gotten so much better at scouting for tendency and identifying places to attack. And offensive coordinators have gotten so much better at borrowing concepts for just 1 week and, stealing from college and whatever, that it's really hard to just give them the same stuff they've always seen and beat them. It's just the nature of the thing. And so I think we've been hoping for the last couple of years, will the Bills find ways to do more creative things on defense? And when I was sitting there at camp, you're just watching them, right, send nickel pressures and drop guys off line of scrimmage. They're pinching the front, so they're bringing guys down late onto the front. They're running under fronts, 5 down fronts. And it's not that it's nothing they've done before, right? I talked to Greg Rousseau after practice, and he was like, watch the Ravens game. Like, we had to do this stuff. But it's the fact that in August, they're investing in being able to deploy those things that they might potentially need in January and February. I don't think Sean McDermott's going to walk out and suddenly be a 5-1-5 penny team that plays match quarters. Like, it's just not his DNA. It's not what he does. It's not what they've drafted for. However, I always think about it in terms of strikeout pitches. These AFC Championship games, like, there's so much that goes into them, but they're going to come down to about 4 or 5 third and fourth downs. Like, they just are. Are you going to get your stops? Are you going to get your conversions? Like, that's the nature of football, is that eventually there's just kind of one play, and it's 4th and 5, throw to Dalton Kincaid, or it's the run that was stopped short of the line to gain. Right? It always comes down to these moments. And just, do you have a strikeout pitch? And I think for the Bills, in experimenting with some of their fronts and trying to be better on those early downs against heavy personnel teams like the Ravens, and then experimenting with some of these blitzes, trying to be better on late downs against teams like the Chiefs and the Bengals, they're looking for the knuckle curve, right? They're looking for the slider, they're looking for those strikeout pitches that they so desperately need in those key moments, those change-ups that's going to change the nature of a playoff game. So it was cool to see the level of investment in it. I would not be surprised if we don't actually see it week 1, week 3, week 7, but all of a sudden they have week 1 they have the Ravens, so maybe we'll see in week 1, but we'll only see it in sporadic moments in the regular season as they prepare for another playoff push.
Well, I think that's what was so important about what McDermott did and the investments made in the offseason and the coaches from the outside. McDermott's always been one to constantly promote from within. You keep promoting from within, you get the same ideas over and over again. Now you got Ryan Nielsen, you got other guys, and so you got some new views. And I would have to think that was probably heavily why Nielsen's there, just to get some new ideas on how to do some things differently, not be so predictable.
Yeah, Rousseau told me that Nielsen spends almost all of his time with the defensive line, and an enormous part of what he's doing with the defensive line is being like very, very technically oriented on how you play some of these different techniques, right? Rousseau talked a lot about, like, last year when I had a tight end in front of me, it was just like, hey, get around the tight end, get through the tight end. There was not a lot of like, hey, if you have a tight end, this means you might see down block, means you might see crack. And this is how we're going to ask you to react attack. And we're asking you to take a first step that's acquired. That's not just get upfield, right? Like, we are going to be hyper specific in what you need to do from a variety of alignments so that we can play these different fronts. And again, implied from that, not said, but implied from that is so that when we get the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC divisional round, we can actually stop the run a little bit better than maybe we did the first, and that's a worthy investment for sure.
Right.
Ben, I want to close with this one for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you are an Eagles guy, and I think that the Eagles were a great Super Bowl champion. There's no doubt about it. How different is that game if the Bills beat Kansas City and the Chiefs are not in the Super Bowl and the Bills are in the Super Bowl against the Eagles? Do you feel like the Eagles are winning that no matter what, or
maybe
do you think that the Bills could?
22 instead
all
of
right, there it is.
Yeah,
there it is.
I was worried about the Chiefs for the 2 weeks approaching that game. I was worried, I would have been worried about the Bills for the 2 weeks approaching that game. Not a lot of people thought that it would be as dominant of a victory. I don't think anybody really thought it'd be that dominant of a victory. The thing to remember about that Eagles postseason run is we had watched in the divisional round a game from the offense against the Los Angeles Rams defense that was like, oh, we cannot get into a shootout. Like, we cannot get into a passing script. Like, Jalen Hurts was not good in the pocket. They were not good in the drop back. They struggled. He very much struggled against the blitz. And so that game looked redonkulous from the Eagles against the Chiefs because they got that first half lead and they got control of the game script. But the Eagles, like every Super Bowl champion, had a lot more weaknesses than we're going to remember on the back end of the win than we would in the front end coming in. And so, yeah, it would have been a close game against the Bills, but there are a lot of universes where it was going to be a close game against the Chiefs too. It's just that's not how the chips fell in the first half. And then the Eagles really good at stepping on your throat in the second half.
Well, you have the Bills offensive line that ranks up there with Philly's, and then you got strength against strength. So it'd be a little bit different. I have to ask you, a Philly guy, you from Philly?
I'm from Northeast Pennsylvania. So a little bit north of Philly.
Which, whereabouts?
Pocono Mountains, Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
I'm from Pottstown.
Okay. I once knew where Pottstown was on a map, and I probably
down by King of Prussia, Norristown, down that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay.
All these Philly connections, we can't avoid them, it seems. Ben, thanks for giving us some of your time today. Thanks for your coverage. It's always fun to hear your perspective on things. And we obviously get a date later in the season, Bills and Eagles, but let's play twice this year. What do you say?
Yeah, well, get a couple of healthy corners, and then we'll see.
Listen, get this man out of here. Ben Solak, ESPN, thanks for being here, my guy.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Jerry.
See you.
All right, coming up next, I want to talk to Jerry a little bit more about the preseason game that was. He studied the tape. I want to talk Cole Bishop, get into some of these position battles as well. So, folks, be sure to stick with us. Monarch Money, folks. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does all the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Maybe you have some subscriptions that you forgot you were paying for. You can link your accounts to Monarch and immediately spot those, and you can cancel those and save money every single month. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL. Joe Marino, Jerry Ostroski, Bills squad here on this Thursday. This will be the normal time. Thursdays at 2 o'clock, so get used to that. And then postgame. Whenever the Bills game ends, we will go live. So 2 episodes a week. And Jeremy White, of course, off today. And he'll be off on Saturday, but then we'll have the full squad together for the season. And Jerry, good insight there from Ben. I've never really heard the explanation for Josh Allen and the reduction in turnovers and the everybody eats mantra quite like that, but it certainly makes a lot of sense.
That makes a ton of sense. And that explanation was as good, like I said, was as good as I've ever heard about everybody eats. Then also the eye-opening deal about the defenses and having new stuff to save to the end of the season. And I don't know if it was cool or concerning that Greg Rousseau had to be taught how to play over a tight end.
Woo! Come on now. What was that?
I've got one up in Northern Iowa right now that can tell you everything you need to know about how to play over a tight end or a tackle, or if I'm in C gap and I got a crash to be. And if that is the truth, that's a little concerning to me.
Yeah, I mean, I know the Bills want to be an up the field style defense, but there's some technique involved with that.
There's a lot of technique involved.
Thank God Ryan Nielsen's here to help.
Yes.
Help elevate, hopefully, the coaching of that unit. All right, Jerry, you did the thing I did. You watched the all 22 of the Bills-Bears preseason game. The floor is yours. We can talk about a lot of different things here. What's the most interesting thing on your mind coming out of that watch?
Well, the most interesting thing is probably the fact, and we've talked about this, is that for the clamoring group and the group that's storming the gates with pitchforks and torches and we're horrible and we have no backups. Other than when we're up by about 30 points with 2 minutes to go and we play all the backups at the same time, I don't think we ever play the backups together all at the same time ever. Now, granted, the way camp's going, we might have to with injuries, but it was a pure, I look at our depth chart, and this is the thing that was really telling to me when I looked at a lot of these positions. And I know Bishop played. He's only a second-year guy. Amount of experience he has because of injury, He might as well be a first-year guy. Okay? Then you look at Dorian Williams. He's on his 3rd year. But then you're looking at guys like Sanders, rookie. Andreessen, 2nd year. Hancock, rookie. Walker, rookie. Jackson, rookie. Hoyt isn't a rookie, but he's new to the system. Everywhere you looked across the board, and this is where the thing that I saw on film was, we've got really good starters. We've got a ton of rookies and 2nd-year guys or guys that haven't been around. We have a minimal number of glue guys. Like when I say glue guy, I think like a Cam Lewis is a glue guy. Guys that can get you through maybe 2 to 3, 4 games before the other guy comes back. Like the experienced dude that's on the cusp of starting, but he's not starting because there's a dude in front of him, but those solid experienced backups. And I looked at that field and I'm like, it's just youth everywhere. And it showed. Like the secondary never played together. There was absolutely, and they didn't play together
right.
Still
haven't played together.
They still haven't played together.
Right.
And so there's no communication. Leverage is wrong. Techniques are wrong. Joe, as good as he is in the run, we know that his deficiencies in pass coverage and his head was spinning in circles. And it's just, the outcome is exactly what you saw on film. Now, there's some bright spots. I think this young defensive line group's got a chance to be really good. I watch film and think that TJ Sanders could be a better pass rusher than Ed Oliver. I think Ed right now has the short, stout deal where he can play the double teams and things like that better than TJ can. TJ has issues taking on double teams, which is understandable. But when he's on the move, he's special. And he had a couple rushes that were really, really nice. I know we've been beating, Landon Jackson in the head. Landon Jackson has all the tools. He's got the physicality. He's got the body. He has no plan. Right now he's trying to figure out a plan, and he's just lost in the wash. And once he gets that plan, and you did a good job on your all-22 review, you showed that one rush that Landon Jackson has where he comes off the ball and he hits the inside hesitation step, and that makes that tackle set his feet, and then it's inside arm over and around for the pressure. That's a plan. But you got to have a plan every play. You got to set up 3 plays earlier to get that to work. So I think being around Bosa and all those guys will be good. One area that I'm kind of concerned with that I felt a little bit better about before the game than I do now after watching the All-22, I'm a little concerned about some of the offensive line backup positions. And you kind of talked about it. Maybe we got guys hurt. Tylen Grable needs to get healthy. Ryan Vandermark is having an opportunity to cement himself as that guy, and this is 2 weeks in a row I think he struggled. Chase Lunt, they move him to guard. You see his limitations real quick. The short arms makes him double punch and overextend and just gets eaten up with that. I didn't mind Kendrick Green. I thought he was pretty good. I thought he did a lot of really, really good things. I think he's a solid center. I think he's a guy that if we had to roll with him as a backup, I'd be good with it. And there were some others, but Freeney was fine. But I don't know where we are there yet as far as what is the plan. And I think the plan's kind of blown up because we haven't seen Van Granger yet. So there's that. I think quarterback wise, watching the film, it's a done deal. I think Mitchell Trubisky is that guy for all the reasons we talk about. And for everybody telling me that Mike White's the pocket passer, I see a lot of deficiencies I didn't see that. You know what I mean? He had multiple opportunities, and we really hadn't seen it. So, yeah, when you look at the All-22, it was a circus on Sunday night. And it was a circus when you watch it again. It's not changing. But the crux of it is tons of dudes with no experience or very, very little experience trying to play together. And this is what happens in those situations as a player, a young player. McDermott wants to see these guys compete. Well, when you don't know what to do, you can't compete. So it goes hand in hand. And the confusion and not knowing what to do and giving up the plays leads to panic. Panic leads to being all over the place, and then competition's out the door. So it was alarming to me, just kind of how unprepared they were.
Well, I hear people, right? Like not actual, but I can hear Bills Mafia in my ear right now saying, I hear you. And I think that would make sense when you talk about the moments where it was the Bears starters against the Bills
Right.
backups. But when it was 2s and 3s against 2s and 3s, it didn't look any better.
No.
So how do you, and you're talking about a first-year coaching staff with the Bears.
Right.
So how do you reconcile that piece of it? Like, oh, whatever, we can explain the starters versus the backups. So when it was backups versus backups,
Right.
and you saw what you saw, where do you start pointing your fingers? And Bobby Babich even said this past week he wished that he would have game planned a little bit because he didn't feel like he really gave guys an opportunity to go out there and play to their best.
That's exactly what it looked like. And it goes back to what I just said. They had no concept of what they were doing. And there was, obviously you could tell they didn't game plan. And I think that the Bears came out and did a few things a little different than just lining up and running goes or running smash or, the first thing they do is obviously they know where the weaknesses are in the Bills defense. And he went right at them, which was the middle of the field, between the safeties and hopefully get it over the top of the Tampa 2 linebacker. And, we didn't carry a receiver, but that was probably the thing is when you go 2s for 2s or 3s for 3s, the group just looked like, hey, we had our game on Friday. We got to do this because we're obligated to. We don't care. Let's just go out. We'll run base stuff and see what happens.
Do you think there's value? And maybe this is Galaxy Brain, and Jerry, you tell me if that's the case. Do you think there's value in not game planning, right? Not being really aware of situations or personnel tendencies, and just going into the game, running your stuff, and then through that, seeing who can be the fundamentally sound player? Like, is there some value in that versus kind of giving them some edges with a level of preparation?
I think there is value to that, but the problem is most of these guys haven't been around. I mean, it's kind of what I was getting at earlier. I mean, I know, there's Cam Lewis's and that type of stuff, but they weren't, we know what they can do. These guys aren't really around. Then, everybody's busting, DeMar's rear end about how he played. DeMar almost looked like he was pissed he was out there with the young kids. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Sure. DeMar was pissed he wasn't spitting seeds on the sidelines with the other guys that started. They had him out on the field, and I think he was upset about it. That's the way I see it. Because there's always that vet that gets hosed in the preseason. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, sorry, we're short, so you're going to have to play 3 quarters, and you're like, really? So yeah, I mean, that's what it looked like to me. I don't think that he's any different a football player. He is what he is, but that's kind of what I saw on that film. It just kind of like little disenchanted that he was having to be out there in the middle of all this chaos when his boys were over there with towels around their necks. So yeah, there is, we used to game plan slightly, Joe. We would spend a little bit of time. It's not like we would put in specific plays for that team, but what we would do is we would go through walkthroughs of what they do on defense. Like, usually they line up in this to this, they line up in this to this. It wasn't like we're going to, they were going to attack this, and we're going to put in a special play. It was just so that we had an idea of their base defense or what they had tendencies of doing. And then we would always, the vets guys, like us anyway, we'd probably pull out and watch a little bit of film and just check them on film to see what they would do. But it wasn't like it was extensive game planning, but we did have an idea of what they were going to do.
Yeah, I hope that Bills Mafia can exhale a little bit. I know that there's not a lot of encouraging things that we've said about the game, and we're being honest about what we see. But ultimately, you had a Bills team without, 40 or 45 of their best players. You didn't watch the Bills. You did not watch the Bills against the Bears. You didn't. And I think that's important to keep in mind. And so I think you take away from it what you need to take away from it. But if you're sitting here acting like the defense isn't going to be better or the third downs are still going to be a problem because of something you saw in this game, I don't think you're pointing to the right data to give you that type of understanding. Again, you'd want it to be better. You would. But I just don't feel like this defines anything about what's going to happen in 2025. So hopefully we can take that in stride and move on,
Well, and the other thing, Joe, and real quick, and I don't know if you're going to talk about him or not, but the one thing that I hope does happen is this week, at some point in time, Cole Bishop has to get some confidence. I mean, this is a hard spot for him. 2nd round pick, had its stuff last year, didn't do much, being relied on to be the replacement next to Rapp, has been hurt. The one game he comes back after a day and a half, even if it was a day and a half of finally being cleared to play, They put him on the field to play, and it's just
yeah.
It looks like he only practiced a day and a half. And somewhere along the lines, this kid's got to get some confidence. And I know part of that confidence is knowing in your mind that you are healthy and 100%. But I'm just worried that I just hope this isn't one of those situations where it's so much turmoil and he gets beat down so much that we lose the development of what I think is a very good football player because he just gets caught up in all of it. Hopefully his confidence level raises soon, whether it's a pick, a huge hit, something's got to go his way.
All right. We'll talk a little more Cole Bishop, maybe some thoughts on Gabe Davis and his visit. Might ask Jerry about Hard Knocks. There's some positional battle stuff. A lot to do here in segment 3, folks. Be sure to stick with us. Jerry, one of these days I'm going to learn that I don't need that many notes going into a conversation with you because you and I can fill time talking Bills and it goes by fast. So
I had like weird PTSD flashbacks watching that all 22 of that Chicago game. That's kind of why I was just like, man, I've been in the middle of these. When you get going and it's like, no matter what you do, there's nothing stopping it. And you just are like, can we just get to the end of this already? Get out of here. You just want to get on the plane and fly home. And, it's tough because like I said, there's so many young guys on this football team and it's going to take a little bit of time to develop them. Just like our defense isn't going to be the best it's going to be in the first 6 weeks. It's going to be into the season as these guys settle in and learn it. It's going to take some time.
Talked about hoping for Cole Bishop to gain some confidence. And I would say Sean McDermott's remarks this week don't help with that. We're coming out and saying, look, we need him to be able to show his true skill set. He's missed time. Right. We're still looking for the answer along with T-Rap. How are you processing the messaging on Cole Bishop, what Cole Bishop has and has not shown, and the opportunity ahead of him?
One thing I've noticed on this football team is there's some really cool dudes as far as understanding human nature, understanding when to pick guys up, when not to pick guys up, when to be supportive. 2 of those guys on this team are Deion Dawkins, who might be the ultimate teammate. That dude is outstanding. And his press conference yesterday was outstanding.
Loved it. Yeah.
I mean, amazing. The other one that was amazing was Bobby Babbage Jr., who tends to look at things on the positive side and understands that. So it's almost like right now we got this yin yang thing going on, this good cop, bad cop. Like they sat down in staff room and said, let me handle that, Bobby. You make sure you get him up. And, Bobby had some good things to say about Bishop, not even in the tone of McDermott, but I think it's good for a young player to understand that there is an urgency here. Okay. It's not just his butt that's on the line. It's everybody's livelihoods on the line. You got to play safety because we got to play better defense, or if not, we're all going to be looking for new jobs. And it seems cut and dry, but it really is. It's that simple. I think it had to be said. I think it went a long way as far as McDermott saying that. I mean, because it's the truth. And, I think the truth is very valuable in this, and Cole needed to hear it. And hopefully he takes it to heart. I know that Babbage talked about working with him and understand, and it's going to take time and he's going to be fine. And so if they got the good cop, bad cop thing going on, that's okay. But, it's a very, the only, like everybody likes to say they live on the edge. The only guys that know where the edge is are the ones that go over the edge, right? Those are the only ones that know where the edge is because they've gone over it. I don't know if Cole knows where the edge is yet, but he's teetering on the edge. So hopefully he gets this thing turned around. I like him a lot. I think he's a good kid. I think he's got a lot of ability. Just had some bad luck.
Yeah. And I mean, when I watch Cole Bishop, I just say, it looks like he's under rep. Like the skill level is obvious, right? He's got skill, he's got size, he's got athleticism. It's just like, you need to be more comfortable with what you're being asked to do and execute it at a higher level. And that just speaks to a guy that's under rep.
See, that's why I like doing this show with you, is I'm old school caveman terminology and you're multi podcasts of the year terminology. So my deal is they have no idea what the hell they're doing. Joe's, to equal that is they're under repped. And that is a great way to look at it. He is way under repped as well as a lot of people on that defense are very under repped.
Well, soon the reps will be reduced because this roster is going from 91 to 53 early next week, which will obviously be a big part of what to pay attention to in this last preseason game. Want to ask you about this Gabe Davis possibility. He was in for a visit yesterday. We know that that's over with. He's left, and certainly feels like a big part of that was to check in on the medicals as he's kind of been working back from injury. We've talked about the possibility of Gabe Davis before. This isn't the first time that we've been down this road, but this is the first time that we've talked about it since the receivers that aren't named Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, and Josh Palmer. Like, everything else is a question mark. Every other receiver. Has your temperature changed at all regarding a possible Gabe Davis reunion, as we've not really seen other receivers step forward?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I was going to say, and I kind of tend to think that maybe Gabe's got more straight line speed than him, but, you know, Shavers to me would fill that Gabe Davis role pretty good.
Yeah, me too.
You know, and have the ability to bend his hips and run better routes. When I look at Gabe Davis coming back here, it's funny because you know that meme where the two Spider-Mans are pointing at each other.
Yeah.
There's the same guy that's complaining why would you bring Gabe Davis back or whatever, and he can't do this, is the same guy that wants a vertical guy. And wants a vertical stretch the ball down the field guy, and it's the same guy that's saying all he can do is run the ball down the field or run down the field and stretch the field vertically. So it's like the same dude. But does this not sound like maybe they're panicking a little? I don't want to say panic. That's not a good term. Is this more of a special teams thing than it is a receiver thing?
Gabe doesn't play special teams.
Okay, then why are we entertaining bringing him back if we have Shavers to do what he did but better?
I don't know that I would single out Tyrell Shavers as the reason you would bring back Gabe Davis. I don't know that you've seen enough from Elijah Moore.
Right.
I worry about the Curtis Samuel factor here.
So are we saying that it'd be Shavers and Gabe Davis?
I would think, and first of all, let's start here. I think Gabe Davis could go to another team and have more opportunity.
Right.
But I think ultimately what you're talking about is signing somebody, putting him on the PUP list, and then we'll see where it goes. And if you need later on in the season, like you did last year, where you had to trade for Amari Cooper, all right, well, now you have Gabe Davis waiting. He's incubating. Like, that's what I think ultimately would be the plan. And if that is the plan, I don't see the downside.
No, I don't either. If that's the plan.
Right. What other plan would make sense?
Right. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. If you felt that highly of him, why'd you let him go in the first place?
Because he got $11.5 million a year. I think that's the reality of being in extensions. He'd love to bring you back, but it has to be at a point that makes sense. And it didn't. And he went to Jacksonville for 1 year, and everybody realized, oh yeah, he's really more of a depth receiver than he is a feature guy.
So now that he went to Jacksonville and got paid, we can actually bring him back and get him for the money that we wanted to get him for in the first place, or actually cheaper.
Well, the good news is he's already making $11.5 million from Jacksonville this year. So you are talking about a minimum contract.
Well, when you look at it that way, what's the reason to not bring him back?
Or that's where I'm at with it. And I mean, good Lord, have I been more critical of Gabe Davis than anyone else? I think I'm probably the leader in the clubhouse. But even I can say I don't really see the downside if it's the context that I'm talking about. Now, if you're bringing him in here to do what you're going to want Palmer or Coleman to do, well, no, but that can't be the plan. We're talking about late August.
Right.
That can't be the plan.
As long as it's not a distraction. Which I don't know how it could be a distraction.
What leverage does Gabe Davis? Teams have had months to sign this man. He was released.
Right.
And he's not found a team yet. I don't think the guy's got a lot of leverage.
Maybe the knee's worse than we think.
Right, he's not a guy he can't lose juice, man. He didn't have much to gain to begin with.
What you said a month ago makes the most sense to me was go to Kansas City and run clear out routes. So he'd be
sure
all pro. He'd be an all pro. No, I don't know. I mean, if it comes back like that, and he's getting his money from Jacksonville, and it's a low end thing, if you put him on the PUP or the IR and you just have him around, I think I don't see the problem with that. I mean, it's a win-win situation, and you got a guy that understands things and can come in and play. But the thing that I don't like is those types of dudes. You'd like to be special teams dogs, and if he's not playing teams, which I don't understand how he's not playing teams, because he's always been known for what he blocks so well on the outside. You can't line that big joker up and block on special teams?
Well, in theory, you should be able to. But let me pull up his career And I don't know if this guy's ever played a special team snap. Special teams. Here it is. He's played 68 snaps of special teams in his career. And I'm bad at math. 63 of those 68 snaps came in his first 2 seasons. Over the last 3 years, he's played 5 snaps of special teams. 4 of them are kick return, which you know what that means. He's on the hands team.
Right.
He doesn't play special teams. It's not part of what's on the menu for him.
As much as I was not surprised by McDermott's comments about Cole Bishop and the urgency in his message, I was a little bit surprised about his message about the wide receivers. We got 3, but we have no idea who the other 2 to 3 are going to be.
Is he wrong, though?
I don't think he is wrong. And I wouldn't doubt. I mean, hell, I had Curtis Samuel traded 3 times yesterday in my mind.
Sure. Someone's got to take on the deal, though, right? Like
the 49ers, he'd have been Debo Light. He'd have been perfect for him. He could have ran it out of the backfield. He could have caught the ball. And now the Debo's gone and going to Washington. I just think that's interesting to me. I mean, I didn't think he would say that, because really, to me, I don't know, a little bit more cut and dry than that. But maybe it hasn't been what we think in practice.
Jerry, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
What's the narrative with Curtis Samuel is injuries, right?
Yeah.
Over the last 3 seasons, how many games did Curtis Samuel miss? Last 3 years.
I have no idea.
4.
I knew it was going to be something. I knew it was going to be something low.
Yeah, it's lower than you think.
Right.
And I, like it or not, I think that the Bills have a level of confidence in Curtis Samuel. He has production with Joe Brady. He was part of the team last year. Josh Allen said if he could have his ultimate foursome of people to play golf with, he would pick Curtis Samuel twice for the vibes. Come on now. I don't think Curtis Samuel's going
why the hell are you saying you don't know who 3 of them are? You obviously know who 4 of them are.
Well, that's why I'm invoking Curtis Samuel. There's nothing that we can point to this year that would say he's earned it, right? He hasn't really practiced. I know the last 2 days he's been ramping up. Sean McDermott said he looks good, but I think there's a level of confidence there. And I think what helps Curtis Samuel is that he has a skill set that's not replicated by anyone else on the team.
Right.
Whether you like it or not. Elijah Moore, what do we know? I mean, 2 drops, misread the leverage of the block that got Davidson, the face mask call. And I think he's not going to be on the field in 11. Do the Bills really run 10? Is Elijah Moore anything other than if Khalil Shakir gets injured, he goes in at the slot, and then you tried to run those screen plays that you run to Khalil Shakir, he dropped the ball and misread the leverage on the one he caught.
I think Elijah Moore won't be here. That's my early call on that group. I think he'll be moved on. There's a reason that he's been on 3 teams as a second round pick.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first thing I talked about when we did sign him. Yeah, on paper, in theory, it looks great, but in reality, this is his 3rd team, guys. Nobody's fighting to keep him, so there's obviously issues. Isolating
the skill set, that's what's hard for me with Elijah Moore. I can isolate the skill set and get very excited, but whenever that skill set's applied to football,
right,
it doesn't appear to be consistent. So if you think he's gone, are you saying that this Bills 5 receivers is Palmer, Shakir, Coleman, Samuel, Favors, and that's your 5? That's who I
believe the 5 should be. Yes.
Man,
I don't know why I want Shaver. It's different than everybody else. This is what he does, what we want. I mean, he stretches the field. He's a big receiver. He's a guy. I mean, I don't know what else the guy's got to do.
I don't either. You've seen the all 22 breakdowns that I put together.
Right.
I mean, the route running down the field is just really
I know
exciting.
I sound like a ding dong because I'm over here stumbling on my words, but I've said it a million times. I don't know what, again, that comes back to me. Like, you watch these guys and you're like, what does this guy, you see guys get cut and you're like, and you're on the team and you're going, my Lord, like, I didn't block him for 2 weeks and now he's getting cut. Like, what is the deal? Like, it's amazing.
If things are earned, Jerry, what receiver has done more to earn a spot this offseason than that guy?
Yeah. Yeah. Hurt, played. And that's the other thing I like about Palmer. Palmer's a low-key tough guy.
Oh, for sure.
Palmer's a low-key tough guy. Palmer's all right. I mean, Palmer's out there, got his leg wrapped up like a mummy, and he's dragging it around practicing. That's a big deal to me. Shavers is one of those dudes. He practices as much as he can. gets dinged up, he's back out there. So
let's close on this. We haven't really discussed Hard Knocks at all.
okay.
I'm assuming you've watched it. Have you watched the 3 episodes?
Yep, I watched all of them when they come out.
I've given a segment to everyone after each episode where I've shared all my thoughts. Where are you at on this Hard Knocks? Are you enjoying it?
I really enjoyed the 3rd episode. The first 2 episodes to me were kind of popcorn and gumballs. You know, I watch your stuff, and I'm redundant on some of the things you say, and I agree with you again about when you said outside of the Bills Mafia, I don't see anybody rushing home and clamoring and knocking the doors down to watch these first 2 episodes. Now, Bill, with us, yeah, we want to watch it, but this episode was the first episode where we had that feeling of drama and tension. The one thing about Hard Knocks, it's always been compelling, is there's always a very hard aspect of tension. You can feel it, right? This episode, the production group did a really good job of showing this urgency to get this done is real. It's real. That you kind of felt a pressure in the episode as far as, you know, getting this done, and then, you know, James gets the contract done, and it was a little bit more palpable than it's been. I enjoyed it. I really did.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. We see that similarly, and 2 more episodes left to go. So hopefully they keep that up. And, you know, when I kind of went in 2 weeks ago and said, look, I don't understand why a fan of a different team would be interested in this. You know, people kind of came back at me and were like, well, why do you want drama? It's like, I'm not asking for drama. You have 91 dudes competing for 53 spots. That's drama.
Right.
I don't need dudes fighting or like weirdo behavior like Antonio Brown. I don't need that. But there's enough drama with 91 dudes competing for 53 spots that there should be some great storytelling opportunities. And I think we finally got that this past week.
I wish we had more of the meeting room meetings.
Right.
That's the thing I wish we had. And obviously the Bills are in control of that, you know, because I still don't know the dynamic. And if I get it out of this 5 episodes, I wish I would. The biggest question mark to me, it's like Clark Kent and Superman. I always see Superman, I always see Clark Kent, but I never see them together, right? I always see McDermott, I always see Brandon Beane, but I never see them together. I see McDermott with Terry Bagula, I see Beane with Terry Bagula. I never see them together. That's the dynamic I wish we would really tell in these last 2 episodes. If we get an episode of that, how does the head coach and the general manager mesh?
I think the head coach and the general manager would love for you to not see any of that. I think that's probably very intentional. I will say this though. I mean, we haven't seen too much of the meeting rooms, right. But if there is something that I would observe, it feels like Sean McDermott is in full CEO mode. He's delegator, right? He's a visionary. He's the, you know, the tone setter, but like in terms of like the real details, I think he's a really big time delegator. That's something I've really picked up on.
I dig the staff. I dig McDermott, and I dig Bobby, and I dig Joe Brady. I think all 3 of those dudes are studs.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't doubt if the 2 coordinators at some point get head coaching jobs in the league.
Well, let's hope Bobby Babich definitely does, because that would tell a good story about what happened with this Bills defense probably over a couple of years. I think the Bills could be number 1 in defense next year, and I don't think Bobby Babich would be anyone's head coach. But if he does that a few years in a row,
yeah,
you know, then we can start having those conversations. All right, Jerry, we'll reconvene after Bills Bucks. That game is at 7:30 Eastern time.
Yep.
And so whenever that thing's over, Jerry and I will go live and hopefully talk about at least a competent Buffalo Bills preseason performance. And then it's all there, roster cuts. So it's coming fast and furious. Thanks for being here, everyone. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, share the podcast. Appreciate it, everyone. Go Bills.
Much love. Go Bills.